The sun shone brightly as I made my way to the town square, my heart swelling with pride and anticipation. Today was a special day. Emily, my wife, was the lead organizer and star of a much-anticipated dance flash mob. The square was packed with hundreds of people, all eagerly waiting for the show to begin. As the music started and the dancers began to move in perfect harmony, I couldn't take my eyes off Emily. Her grace and energy were mesmerizing, and in that moment, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Emily had always been passionate about dance. From the day we met, her love for movement and rhythm had been a defining part of her. Seeing her in her element, leading the crowd with such confidence and joy, filled me with admiration. As the performance reached its climax, the audience erupted into applause. Emily's smile was radiant, her eyes shining with happiness. After the performance, Emily approached me, still glowing with excitement. "John, I want you to meet Michael," she said, her voice full of enthusiasm. "He's the choreographer who made all this possible." Michael extended his hand with a charming smile. He was tall and athletic, exuding a charisma that was hard to ignore. "Nice to meet you, John. Emily's been an incredible leader. Couldn't have done it without her," he said. "Nice to meet you too, Michael," I replied, shaking his hand firmly. The performance was fantastic. You both did an amazing job. As weeks went by, Emily's involvement in the dance group intensified. She spent more and more time at rehearsals, often coming home late. I tried to be understanding, knowing how much this meant to her, but I couldn't help but feel a growing distance between us. Our conversations became brief and impersonal, and her focus on our family seemed to wane. One evening, as Emily was getting ready to leave for yet another late-night rehearsal, I overheard her talking on the phone with Michael. Their conversation was lighthearted and personal, something I hadn't heard from her in a long time. My heart sank a little, but I pushed the feeling aside, telling myself that it was just the stress of the project. However, my unease only grew. Curious and a bit desperate, I started checking her phone when she wasn't around. I saw frequent messages and calls from Michael, often late at night. My stomach churned with suspicion, but when I confronted Emily, she brushed it off, insisting that it was all part of the work and that I had nothing to worry about. Despite her reassurances, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One night, driven by a nagging doubt, I decided to follow her. She left the house saying she had a rehearsal, but instead of heading to the usual studio, she met up with Michael. They walked together, laughing and talking intimately, before disappearing into his apartment building. I watched from a distance, my heart pounding, feeling like my world was falling apart. The next day, I confronted Emily again. This time, under the weight of my persistence and the evidence I had, she couldn't deny it. She confessed to having an affair with Michael. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe it. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew so well, had betrayed me. Our life together began to unravel. We started living like strangers, avoiding each other as much as possible. I sought solace in friends and support groups, trying to make sense of my pain. After months of agony, I realized I couldn't forgive her. We decided to get a divorce. I moved to a different city, hoping to start afresh. The memories of Emily's betrayal still haunted me, but I was determined to heal and rebuild my life. I had to believe that there was a future for me beyond the pain, that I could find happiness again, even if it meant starting from scratch. The days following Emily's confession were a blur. I found myself mechanically going through the motions of life, but the vibrant colors that once painted our world had dulled. Emily and I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy, but it was a charade, a fragile mask barely concealing the cracks beneath. Emily moved into the guest room. Our conversations became stilted and sparse, filled with awkward silences and polite formalities. Every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal, and the hurt ran deep. I found myself avoiding the house as much as possible, throwing myself into work and finding excuses to stay out late. It was easier than facing the painful reality at home. One evening, as I sat alone in a quiet corner of our favorite bar, my thoughts drifted back to the early days of our relationship. I remembered the first time I saw Emily dance, her movements full of life and joy. Back then, it felt like we were invincible, like nothing could ever come between us. But now, everything had changed. The woman I loved was a stranger, and I didn't know how to bridge the gap that had formed between us. Desperate for support, I reached out to my best friend, David. We met at a coffee shop, and as soon as I saw him, the dam broke. I poured out my heart, recounting every painful detail. David listened patiently, his face a mask of concern. "I'm so sorry, John," he said finally, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "I can't imagine what you're going through. But you don't have to go through this alone. We'll get through this together." His words were a small comfort, a reminder that I wasn't entirely alone. With David's encouragement, I joined a support group for people dealing with infidelity. Sharing my story with others who had experienced similar pain was both cathartic and heartbreaking. I found solace in their stories, realizing that my feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion were normal. Emily and I continued to drift apart. There were moments when I caught a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, but they were fleeting. One afternoon, while sorting through some old photos, I stumbled upon a picture from our honeymoon. We were standing on a beach, smiling and holding hands, the future spread out before us like an endless horizon. I felt a pang of longing for those simpler times, but the present reality was inescapable. Emily tried to reach out a few times, suggesting we see a marriage counselor. But I couldn't bring myself to agree. The trust between us was shattered, and I couldn't see how any amount of counseling could repair it. Every time I thought about her and Michael, the pain and anger surged anew. One night, Emily knocked on my door. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, and she came in, sitting at the edge of the bed. "I know I can't undo what I've done," she began, tears streaming down her face. "But I want you to know that I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you, John. I got caught up in the excitement and the attention, and I made a terrible mistake." Her words hung in the air, heavy with remorse. Part of me wanted to reach out and comfort her, to find a way back to the love we once had. But the wound was too deep, and I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. "I appreciate your apology, Emily," I said finally, my voice cold and distant. "But I don't think I can ever trust you again. I think it's best if we go our separate ways." Her sobs filled the room, and I turned away, feeling the weight of our broken dreams pressing down on me. In that moment, I knew our marriage was truly over. We began the painful process of disentangling our lives. Emily moved out, and we filed for divorce. The house felt emptier without her, but it was also a relief. The constant reminder of her betrayal was gone, and I could start the slow journey towards healing. I threw myself into work and started exploring new hobbies, trying to fill the void left by Emily's absence. I went on long hikes, took up painting, and even tried my hand at cooking. Each new activity was a step towards reclaiming my life, a way to rediscover who I was outside of our relationship. Months passed, and the pain began to dull, replaced by a sense of cautious optimism. I started to believe that there was a future for me beyond the hurt, that I could find happiness again, even if it meant building a new life from the ground up. And as I stood on the brink of this new beginning, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in what felt like forever. The morning after Emily moved out, I woke up to an eerie silence. For the first time in years, I was alone in our house. The echoes of our shared life seemed to linger in every corner, a haunting reminder of what once was. I got out of bed, the emptiness of the space pressing down on me, and made my way to the kitchen. As I brewed a pot of coffee, I couldn't help but feel the weight of solitude. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the steaming cup in front of me. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. I couldn't shake the image of Emily and Michael together, the betrayal cutting deeper with each passing moment. The thought of moving forward seemed impossible, the future a daunting, uncertain landscape. David called later that day, checking in on me. "How are you holding up, man?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. "I'm managing," I replied, though I knew it was a lie. "It's just hard to believe this is my life now. Listen, why don't you come over tonight? We'll have a few drinks, watch the game, take your mind off things for a while." I agreed. grateful for the distraction. That evening, as we sat in David's living room, I felt a small measure of comfort. We talked about everything but Emily, laughing and joking like we used to. For a few hours, the pain receded, replaced by the familiarity of friendship. In the weeks that followed, I tried to establish a new routine. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects and staying late at the office. My colleagues, sensing my need for distraction, were supportive. Yet, no matter how busy I kept myself, the emptiness followed me home every night. I began seeing a therapist, hoping to make sense of my feelings and find a way to heal. Dr. Collins was patient and understanding, guiding me through the labyrinth of my emotions. "It's important to give yourself time," she advised. "Healing from a betrayal like this isn't easy, and it's okay to feel angry, hurt, and lost." One session, she asked me to recount the moment I discovered Emily's affair. Reliving that night was painful, but it was also cathartic. Talking about it helped me understand that the betrayal was not my fault, and that holding on to the pain would only hinder my recovery. Emily and I communicated only when necessary, mainly about the logistics of the divorce. Each interaction was a painful reminder of our broken past, but I focused on the future, determined to rebuild my life. I sold the house, unable to bear living in a place filled with memories of us. I found a small apartment downtown, a fresh start in a new environment. As I settled into my new home, I began exploring the city. I discovered a quaint coffee shop around the corner and made it my morning ritual to stop by before work. The barista, a cheerful woman named Claire, always had a kind word and a smile, brightening my day. One Saturday afternoon, while browsing a local bookstore, I bumped into an old friend, Lisa. We hadn't seen each other since college, and catching up was a welcome distraction. "You should come to our book club next week," she suggested. "It's a great group of people, and we'd love to have you." Joining the book club was one of the best decisions I made. It introduced me to new friends and gave me a sense of community. Discussing literature became a weekly escape, a way to connect with others and share different perspectives. Despite these small victories, nights were still the hardest. Alone in my apartment, the silence was deafening. I often found myself lying awake, replaying the past, and wondering how things went so wrong. It was during these moments that I missed Emily the most, not the woman she became, but the one I fell in love with. One night, unable to sleep, I took a walk through the city. The streets were quiet, the glow of streetlights casting long shadows. I wandered aimlessly, lost in thought, until I found myself at the edge of the river. The water flowed steadily, a metaphor for the passage of time and the inevitability of change. Standing there, I realized that clinging to the past was like trying to hold on to water. It was impossible and only left me feeling empty. I had to let go, to allow myself to move forward and embrace whatever the future held. The next day, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. I enrolled in a painting class at the local community center, something I'd always wanted to try. I started cooking more, experimenting with new recipes and inviting friends over for dinner. Each new activity was a step towards reclaiming my life, a way to discover who I was outside of my relationship with Emily. Months passed, and while the pain of betrayal never fully disappeared, it began to fade. I found myself laughing more, enjoying the company of friends, and looking forward to new experiences. I knew the journey ahead would be long and winding, but for the first time I felt a glimmer of hope. As I stood on the brink of this new beginning, I realized that life, despite its hardships, was full of possibilities. And though the road to healing was far from over, I was ready to take the next step, to embrace the unknown and to find happiness once more. The transition to my new apartment marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Despite the fresh surroundings, the echoes of my past lingered, and I often found myself reflecting on the journey that led me here. The pain of betrayal was still a constant companion, but I was determined to move forward, to reclaim my life and find a sense of peace. One evening, while unpacking the last of my boxes, I came across a photo album from our wedding. I hesitated before opening it, knowing it would stir a mix of emotions. As I flipped through the pages, Memories of happier times flooded back. There we were, smiling and full of hope, unaware of the storm that would eventually tear us apart. I closed the album and put it away, deciding it was time to create new memories. The next day, I took a step towards healing by reaching out to my colleagues. I organized a small get-together after work, inviting a few close friends from the office. We met at a cozy pub downtown, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of camaraderie and support. We talked about everything but my failed marriage, and it was a welcome relief to laugh and enjoy their company. In the weeks that followed, I immersed myself in my new hobbies. The painting class I had enrolled in became a sanctuary. The process of creating something from nothing was therapeutic, allowing me to express my emotions in a way words couldn't. My instructor, a kind and encouraging woman named Rachel, noticed my dedication and often stayed after class to offer extra guidance. One evening, as I was packing up my supplies, Rachel approached me. "John, I can see you're putting a lot of emotion into your work," she said gently. "Have you considered showcasing your paintings at our upcoming community art exhibit?" The idea of sharing my work with others was daunting, but I agreed. Preparing for the exhibit gave me a sense of purpose and a goal to strive for. I spent hours perfecting my pieces, channeling my pain and hopes into each brushstroke. When the night of the exhibit arrived, I felt a mix of nerves and excitement. Friends and colleagues came to support me, their presence a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey. As I stood by my paintings, watching people admire my work, I felt a sense of accomplishment. It was a small victory, but a significant one. Meanwhile, my book club meetings became a highlight of my week. The group was diverse and engaging, and our discussions often delved into personal experiences and reflections. One evening, we read a book about resilience and overcoming adversity, and the conversation naturally turned to personal stories of hardship and healing. When it was my turn to share, I hesitated, but then decided to open up about my recent struggles. "A few months ago, my wife and I separated," I began, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "She had an affair, and it's been a challenging time, but I'm trying to move forward." The group listened intently, offering words of support and understanding. Lisa, who had invited me to join the club, spoke up. "John, thank you for sharing. It takes a lot of courage to be so open about something so painful. We're here for you." Her words meant more than she knew. The book club became not just a place for intellectual discussion, but a source of emotional support and friendship. It was another step towards rebuilding my life, surrounded by people who genuinely cared. As winter turned to spring, I continued to explore new interests. I joined a hiking group and spent weekends exploring the trails around the city. The physical exertion and the beauty of nature provided a much-needed escape from my thoughts. On one of these hikes, I met a woman named Sarah. She was warm and friendly, and we quickly discovered a shared love for the outdoors. We started hiking together regularly, and our conversations flowed easily. One day, as we sat on a rocky outcrop overlooking a stunning valley, Sarah turned to me and asked, "So, what's your story, John?" I hesitated, but then decided to be honest. I told her about Emily, the affair, and the painful journey I'd been on. Sarah listened without judgment, her eyes full of empathy. When I finished, she shared her own story of a difficult breakup and the path she took to find herself again. "It's hard, but it gets better," she said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You're already taking the right steps." Our friendship grew, and over time I found myself looking forward to our hikes and conversations. Sarah became a trusted confidant, and her support helped me navigate the difficult moments. As months passed, I began to notice a shift in myself. The pain of Emily's betrayal, while still present, no longer dominated my every thought. I was rediscovering joy in small moments, an engaging book club discussion, a successful painting, a challenging hike. These experiences, combined with the support of friends old and new, were helping me heal. I knew the road ahead would still have its challenges, but I felt stronger, more resilient. Each day was a step towards a brighter future, and I was determined to embrace it fully. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I was learning to adapt, to find beauty and meaning in the journey itself. Months had passed since Emily moved out, and my new routine was slowly beginning to feel normal. The once constant ache of betrayal had dulled to a manageable throb, and I found myself more often reflecting on the future than the past. My new hobbies and the supportive people in my life were instrumental in this shift, but there was still an underlying sense of loneliness that I couldn't shake. I knew it was time to confront it head on. One Friday evening, after a particularly long week at work, I decided to spend the weekend alone in a cabin I had rented up in the mountains. It was a place of tranquility and solitude, far removed from the noise and distractions of the city. I packed a few essentials, my painting supplies, a couple of books, and some food, and set off early Saturday morning. The drive to the cabin was peaceful. The further I got from the city, the more I felt the tension in my shoulders ease. When I finally arrived, the sight of the cozy wooden cabin nestled among tall pine trees filled me with a sense of calm. I unpacked my things, lit a fire in the hearth, and settled into the quiet. That first evening, I sat by the fire, sketching the view from the cabin window. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape. As I drew, I felt a deep sense of connection to the world around me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. The simplicity of the moment was comforting, a reminder that beauty could be found even in solitude. The next day, I decided to explore the surrounding trails. The crisp mountain air and the sound of birdsong were invigorating. I hiked for hours, letting my mind wander and my thoughts flow freely. As I climbed higher, I felt a sense of accomplishment with each step, a physical manifestation of the emotional journey I was on. At the summit, I found a quiet spot overlooking a vast valley. I sat down, closed my eyes, and let the serenity wash over me. In that moment, I realized that solitude didn't have to be synonymous with loneliness. It could be an opportunity for self-discovery and growth. On the second night back at the cabin, I built another fire and cooked a simple meal. As I ate, I thought about how far I'd come since the day Emily left. The pain of her betrayal was still a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was discovering new strengths within myself, strengths I didn't know I had. That evening, I decided to write a letter to Emily, not to send, but to express my feelings and find closure. I wrote about the hurt and anger, but also about the love we once shared and the lessons I had learned. By the time I finished, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. The letter was a symbolic end to that chapter of my life, a way to acknowledge the past while embracing the future. On the final day, I spent the morning painting a landscape inspired by my hike. As I worked, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. Creating something beautiful from the raw materials of my experience was incredibly healing. It was a reminder that I could rebuild my life piece by piece and find joy in the process. As I packed up to leave, I took one last look at the cabin and the surrounding mountains. This place had given me the space and solitude I needed to reflect and heal. It had shown me that I could find strength within myself, even when I felt most alone. Driving back to the city, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The time alone had been transformative, helping me to understand that solitude was not something to fear, but something to embrace. It was a tool for growth, a way to reconnect with myself and the world around me. Back in the city, I returned to my routine with a fresh perspective. I continued to engage in my hobbies, nurture my friendships, and explore new interests. But now, I also made a conscious effort to carve out moments of solitude to reflect and recharge. One evening, as I sat on my apartment balcony watching the sunset, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The journey had been difficult, and there were still challenges ahead, but I was learning to find strength in my own company. I was discovering that happiness and fulfillment came from within, and that I was capable of creating a meaningful and joyful life on my own terms. As I sipped my coffee and watched the city lights begin to twinkle, I knew that I was ready for whatever the future held. I had faced my deepest fears and emerged stronger. And in that moment, I felt a quiet but powerful contentment, knowing that I was finally at peace with myself and the world around me. As the months continued to pass, I felt the subtle shift in the air that marked the beginning of summer. The city came alive with vibrant colors and activities, and I found myself embracing the change with open arms. My apartment had become a sanctuary of sorts, filled with my paintings, books, and the comforting routine I had established. But I knew that the next step in my healing journey was to open myself up to new experiences and connections. One afternoon, I received a message from Sarah, the woman I had met during my hikes. She suggested we meet up for a weekend hike and picnic. It was a welcome invitation, and I eagerly agreed. The thought of spending time with someone who understood my journey and shared my love for the outdoors was exciting. We met early on Saturday morning, the sun already casting a warm glow over the city. As we drove to the trailhead, we chatted about our latest adventures and discoveries. Sarah had a contagious enthusiasm for life that was refreshing and uplifting. I found myself laughing and genuinely enjoying her company. The hike was challenging but rewarding. We climbed steadily, the path winding through lush forests and opening up to breathtaking vistas. At the summit, we found a perfect spot to lay out our picnic. The view was spectacular, the city sprawling out beneath us, the horizon stretching endlessly. As we sat and ate, our conversation turned more personal. Sarah shared stories of her past relationships, the heartbreaks, and the lessons she had learned. Her openness and vulnerability were inspiring, and I felt a deep connection forming between us. "John," she said, looking at me thoughtfully, "I think it's incredible how far you've come. I know how hard it is to rebuild after a betrayal, but you're doing it with such grace and strength." Her words touched me deeply. "Thank you, Sarah. It's been a tough journey, but meeting people like you has made it a lot easier." She smiled, and we continued our conversation, delving into our hopes and dreams for the future. It felt natural and unforced, like we were old friends catching up after a long time apart. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I spent more time together. We explored new trails, attended art exhibits, and even tried out a few cooking classes. Our bond grew stronger, and I realized that I was genuinely happy. The darkness that had overshadowed my life was lifting, replaced by a sense of possibility and excitement. One evening, as we strolled through a local park, Sarah turned to me with a serious expression. "John, can I ask you something?" "Of course," I replied, curious. "Do you ever think about dating again?" "I mean, really opening yourself up to the possibility of a new relationship?" The question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on healing and rebuilding that I hadn't given much thought to dating. But as I looked at Sarah, I felt a surge of hope. She had become an important part of my life, and the idea of exploring something deeper with her was appealing. "I do," I said finally. "I think I'm ready to give it a try." Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I'm glad to hear that, because, well, I think there's something special between us, and I'd like to see where it goes." Her words were a balm to my soul. "I feel the same way, Sarah. Let's take it one step at a time and see where it leads." From that moment, our relationship blossomed. We spent countless hours talking, sharing our fears and dreams, and supporting each other in our personal growth. Being with Sarah was different. It was easy and uncomplicated, filled with mutual respect and understanding. As summer turned to fall, we decided to take a weekend trip to a nearby coastal town. It was a spontaneous decision, driven by a desire to escape the city and enjoy some time by the ocean. We rented a charming little cottage by the beach, and the sound of the waves became our soundtrack. One evening, as we walked along the shore, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink, Sarah took my hand. "John, I want you to know how much you mean to me. You've brought so much joy and light into my life, and I'm grateful for every moment we share." Her words were filled with sincerity and emotion. "Sarah, you've been a beacon of hope for me. I never thought I could feel this way again, but you've shown me that it's possible." We stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the waves gently lapping at our feet. In that moment, I knew that I was truly ready to embrace this new chapter of my life. The pain of the past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was stronger, more resilient, and ready to build a future filled with love and happiness. Our weekend at the beach was magical. We explored the town, tried local cuisine, and spent hours talking by the fire. It was a time of deep connection and affirmation of the path we were on together. Returning to the city, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and contentment. My life was no longer defined by the shadows of betrayal, but by the possibilities of the future. Sarah and I continued to nurture our relationship, building a foundation of trust and love. As I stood on my apartment balcony one evening, watching the city lights twinkle, I realized how far I had come. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led me to a place of peace and fulfillment. I was ready to embrace the future, to continue growing and discovering the beauty of life. And with Sarah by my side, I knew that anything was possible. The pain of the past had been a crucible, forging me into a stronger, wiser person. And as I looked out at the horizon, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought me here, to this moment of new beginnings and endless possibilities. With Sarah by my side, life took on a new sense of purpose and joy. Our relationship continued to deepen, each day bringing us closer together. We shared our hopes, dreams, and fears, supporting each other through the inevitable ups and downs of life. One sunny afternoon, Sarah and I sat in a cozy cafe, sipping on cups of coffee and discussing our plans for the future. "I've been thinking," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with excitement, "about starting my own business." I listened intently as she outlined her ideas, her passion evident in every word. "That sounds amazing, Sarah," I said, smiling. "You've got such talent and drive, I have no doubt you'll succeed." Encouraged by her enthusiasm, I found myself sharing my own aspirations. "I've been thinking about going back to school," I admitted. "There's this program in art therapy that I've always been interested in. I think it could be a way for me to combine my love for art with helping others." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That sounds perfect for you, John. I'll support you in any way I can." With Sarah's encouragement, I enrolled in the art therapy program and threw myself into my studies. It was challenging but incredibly fulfilling, and I knew I had found my calling. Sarah, meanwhile, poured her heart and soul into building her business, and I watched with pride as she flourished. As the years passed, our relationship only grew stronger. We traveled together, explored new hobbies, and celebrated each other's successes. Our love was a constant source of strength and inspiration, anchoring us through life's storms. One evening, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset, I turned to Sarah and took her hand. "Sarah, I love you more than words can express," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "You've brought so much light and joy into my life, and I'm grateful for every moment we share." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she squeezed my hand. "I love you too, John. You're my rock, my partner in every sense of the word." In that moment, as the colors of the sunset painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, I knew that I had found my home in Sarah's arms. Our journey had been long and winding, filled with pain and heartache, but it had led us to each other. And as we embraced the future together, I knew that there was nothing we couldn't overcome. With Sarah by my side, I felt invincible, ready to face whatever challenges life threw our way. Our love was a beacon of hope, guiding us through the darkness and illuminating the path ahead. As we watched the stars emerge one by one in the night sky, I made a silent promise to cherish every moment with Sarah, to love her fiercely and unconditionally for the rest of my days. And as we leaned into each other's embrace, I felt a profound sense of peace and gratitude, knowing that I had found my soulmate in Sarah, and that our love would endure for eternity. As the years passed, Sarah and I continued to build a life together filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. Our bond grew deeper with each passing day, anchoring us through life's inevitable challenges and triumphs. Looking back on the journey that brought us to this moment, I couldn't help but marvel at the twists and turns of fate that had led us here. From the pain of betrayal to the joy of finding love again, Every experience had shaped us into the people we were today. Sarah's business had flourished beyond our wildest dreams. Her passion and dedication had turned her vision into a thriving reality, and I couldn't have been prouder of her. Meanwhile, my career in art therapy had taken off, allowing me to combine my love for art with my desire to help others heal. Together, we traveled the world, exploring new cultures and immersing ourselves in new experiences. From the bustling streets of Tokyo to the tranquil beaches of Bali, each destination left its mark on our hearts, deepening our connection and broadening our horizons. But amidst the excitement of our adventures, we always made time for quiet moments of reflection. Whether it was a lazy Sunday morning spent cuddled up on the couch or a quiet evening stroll through the park, these moments were sacred to us, a chance to pause and appreciate the beauty of life. As we celebrated our 10th anniversary together, surrounded by friends and family, I found myself overwhelmed with gratitude. Gratitude for Sarah, for her unwavering love and support. Gratitude for the journey that had brought us together, with all its ups and downs. And gratitude for the simple moments of joy and connection that made life worth living. As I looked into Sarah's eyes that night, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Our love had weathered storms and stood the test of time, growing stronger with each passing year. And as we danced beneath the stars, surrounded by the people we loved most in the world, I felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over me. In that moment, I realized that the journey was far from over. There would be more challenges to face, more adventures to embark on, and more memories to create together. But as long as Sarah was by my side, I knew that we could conquer anything life threw our way. And so, as we danced into the night, lost in each other's arms, I made a silent vow to cherish every moment, to love Sarah with all my heart, and to savor the beauty of our journey together for as long as we both shall live. As Sarah and I celebrated our 20th anniversary, I couldn't help but marvel at the journey we had embarked on together. 2 decades of love, laughter, and shared experiences had shaped us into the people we were today. But as we looked towards the future, we knew that our greatest adventure still lay ahead. With each passing year, our love only seemed to deepen. We had weathered storms and celebrated triumphs, always standing by each other's side through thick and thin. And as we reflected on the years gone by, we felt a sense of gratitude for the love and companionship that had sustained us through it all. But amidst the celebrations, there was also a sense of responsibility, a desire to pass on the wisdom we had gained over the years to the next generation. We had learned so much about love, resilience, and the importance of cherishing every moment, and we wanted to share those lessons with others. So we began volunteering at a local community center, offering support and guidance to young couples navigating the ups and downs of relationships. We shared our own experiences openly, hoping to inspire and empower others to create strong, healthy bonds built on love and mutual respect. One evening, as we sat with a group of young couples, sharing stories and offering advice, I was struck by the power of connection. Despite our differences in age and background, we were all united by a common desire for love and understanding. As the conversation flowed, I found myself sharing stories of our own struggles and triumphs, the early days of our relationship, the challenges we had faced, and the lessons we had learned along the way. And as I looked around the room, I saw nods of recognition and understanding, a shared acknowledgement of the universal truths of love and human connection. In that moment, I realized the importance of passing on the wisdom we had gained over the years. Love was not just about grand gestures or romantic gestures. It was about showing up for each other every day, through the good times and the bad. It was about communication, empathy, and a willingness to grow and change together. As Sarah and I left the community center that evening, I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me. Our love story had come full circle, from the pain of betrayal to the joy of finding love again, and now to the opportunity to share our wisdom with others. And as we walked hand in hand into the night, I knew that our journey was far from over, that there were still countless adventures and lessons waiting to be discovered together. As Sarah and I approached our golden anniversary, I couldn't help but reflect on the legacy of love we had built together. Our journey had been filled with laughter and tears, triumphs and challenges, but through it all, our love had remained unwavering. We decided to celebrate this milestone by renewing our vows in front of our friends and family, reaffirming our commitment to each other and the life we had built together. It was a beautiful ceremony, filled with love and joy, a testament to the enduring power of our bond. But as we stood before our loved ones, exchanging vows and promises, I couldn't shake the feeling that our love story was about more than just us. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the transformative power of love. So we decided to mark our anniversary by establishing a foundation dedicated to supporting couples in need. We used our own experiences to inform our work, offering counseling, financial assistance, and resources to those struggling in their relationships. Over the years, our foundation grew, touching the lives of countless couples and families. We saw firsthand the impact of our work. The marriages saved, the families reunited, the lives transformed by the power of love and support. As we approached the end of our days together, Sarah and I took comfort in the knowledge that our love would live on long after we were gone. Our foundation would continue to serve as a beacon of hope and support for generations to come, a testament to the enduring power of love to change lives. And as we look back on our journey, from the pain of betrayal to the joy of finding love again, we knew that every trial and tribulation had been worth it, for it had led us to this moment, this legacy of love that would endure for eternity. As Sarah and I grew older, we knew that our time together was drawing to a close. We had lived a full and rich life, filled with love, laughter, and adventure. But now, as we faced the inevitable passage of time, we found solace in each other's arms, cherishing every moment we had left together. We spent our days reminiscing about the memories we had shared, flipping through old photo albums and recounting stories from our youth. Every laugh, every tear, every triumph and heartbreak was a thread in the tapestry of our love story, woven together with the threads of time. But as much as we cherished the past, we also looked towards the future. We knew that our love would endure long after we were gone, a legacy of hope and inspiration for future generations. And so, we spent our final days together planning for the future of our foundation, ensuring that it would continue to serve those in need long after we were gone. As the end drew near, we found comfort in our faith and in the knowledge that our love would live on forever. And so, hand in hand, we faced the final chapter of our love story with courage and grace, knowing that our journey together had been nothing short of miraculous. As Sarah peacefully passed away in my arms, I felt a mixture of profound sorrow and deep gratitude. Our journey together had come to an end, but our love would live on forever in my heart. In the days that followed, I found solace in the memories we had shared, the laughter, the tears, the moments of quiet companionship. Each memory was a precious treasure, a reminder of the depth of our love and the beauty of our life together. As I said my final goodbye to Sarah, surrounded by friends and family, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. She had been my rock, my partner, my soulmate, and though she was gone, her love would always be with me. In the months that followed, I threw myself into our foundation's work, honoring Sarah's memory by continuing the work we had started together. Every life we touched, every marriage we saved, was a tribute to the love we had shared and the legacy we had left behind. As time passed, the pain of loss began to fade, replaced by a deep sense of gratitude for the time we had shared. Sarah had taught me so much about love, resilience, and the power of human connection, and I would carry those lessons with me always. And though I missed her every day, I found comfort in the knowledge that our love would endure, transcending time and space to bind us together for eternity. As I sat alone in our apartment, surrounded by memories of our life together, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. Sarah may have left this world, but her spirit lived on in every sunrise, every gentle breeze, every moment of quiet reflection. And as I closed my eyes and let the memories wash over me, I knew that she would always be with me, guiding me, comforting me, and reminding me that love never truly dies. In the wake of Sarah's passing, I found myself grappling with a profound sense of loss. She had been my partner, my confidante, my best friend, and her absence left a void in my life that seemed impossible to fill. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I knew that I had to find a way to honor her memory and carry on her legacy. I threw myself into our foundation's work with renewed determination, pouring my heart and soul into helping couples in need. Every life we touched, every marriage we saved, felt like a tribute to Sarah and the love we had shared. And though her physical presence was gone, her spirit lived on in the work we continued to do together. In addition to our foundation's work, I also found solace in nurturing the relationships I had with friends and family. They became my lifeline, offering support, comfort, and companionship during the darkest moments of grief. Their presence reminded me that I was not alone, that I was surrounded by love and support, even in the midst of loss. But perhaps the most profound way I honored Sarah's memory was by living my life to the fullest, just as she had always encouraged me to do. I took up new hobbies, traveled to new places, and embraced every opportunity for growth and self-discovery. In doing so, I felt her presence guiding me, urging me to seize the moment and make the most of every precious day. As time passed, the pain of loss began to soften, replaced by a sense of gratitude for the time we had shared and the love we had known. I carried her memory with me wherever I went, finding comfort in the knowledge that she would always be a part of me, no matter where life took me. And though I would never forget the pain of losing her, I also knew that her legacy would live on in the lives we had touched and the love we had shared. She had been my greatest teacher, my greatest inspiration, and her memory would continue to inspire me to live a life filled with love, compassion, and purpose. In the end, honoring Sarah's legacy meant embracing life with open arms, cherishing every moment, and sharing the love that had sustained us through the darkest of times. And as I looked towards the future, I knew that her spirit would always be with me, guiding me, comforting me, and reminding me of the power of love to transcend even the deepest of sorrows. As time passed and I continued to honor Sarah's legacy, I gradually found a sense of peace within myself. The rawness of grief began to fade, replaced by a quiet acceptance of her passing and a deep appreciation for the love we had shared. I sought solace in the small moments of everyday life, the warmth of the sun on my face, the sound of birdsong in the morning, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. These simple pleasures reminded me of the beauty and fragility of life, and I cherished them all the more in Sarah's absence. I also found comfort in my faith, drawing strength from the belief that Sarah was in a better place, watching over me with love and pride. Though I missed her every day, I took comfort in the knowledge that she was at peace, free from pain and suffering. In addition to my faith, I also leaned on the support of friends and family, who continued to be a source of love and encouragement in my life. Their presence reminded me that I was never truly alone, that I was surrounded by people who cared for me deeply. But perhaps the most profound source of peace came from within myself. As I reflected on Sarah's life and our time together, I realized that her spirit lived on in me, in the love we had shared, the lessons we had learned, and the memories we had created together. And so, I made a conscious decision to honor her memory by living a life filled with love, compassion, and purpose. I volunteered at our foundation, supported causes that were dear to her heart, and sought out opportunities to make a positive impact in the world. In doing so, I found a sense of purpose and fulfillment that I had never known before. Sarah's passing had taught me the preciousness of life and the importance of making every moment count. And as I embraced this newfound sense of purpose, I felt a deep sense of peace settle over me, knowing that I was living in alignment with her legacy. As I stood at her graveside one final time, surrounded by loved ones, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Sarah may have left this world, but her love would always be with me, guiding me, comforting me, and inspiring me to live a life of meaning and purpose. And as I walked away from her final resting place, I carried her memory with me in my heart, finding solace in the knowledge that she would always be a part of me, no matter where life took me. As I continued to navigate life without Sarah by my side, I found that her presence remained palpable in every aspect of my existence. Her love had left an indelible mark on my heart, guiding me through both joyous moments and times of sorrow. In the wake of her passing, I channeled my grief into action, finding solace in carrying on the work we had started together. Our foundation flourished, its reach extending farther than we could have ever imagined. Each life we touched, each relationship we helped mend, was a testament to the enduring power of Sarah's love. But amidst the busyness of my days, there were quiet moments of reflection when I allowed myself to fully feel the depth of my loss. In those moments, I found solace in memories of our time together, the laughter, the tears, the shared dreams and aspirations. Though Sarah was no longer physically present, her spirit lived on in the love we had shared and the impact we had made together. In the years that followed, I found myself drawn to new experiences and opportunities for growth. I traveled to distant lands, pursued hobbies I had long neglected, and forged new connections with people from all walks of life. And with each new experience, I carried Sarah's memory with me, finding comfort in the knowledge that she was a part of every moment, guiding me, encouraging me, and cheering me on from afar. As I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point, I realized that Sarah's passing had taught me valuable lessons about the nature of love and loss. It had shown me that even in the darkest of times, love had the power to sustain us, to uplift us, and to carry us through the storm. And so, I made a conscious decision to continue living a life fueled by love, a life that honored Sarah's memory and embraced the fullness of human connection. Though she may have left this world, her love remained a beacon of hope in my heart, lighting the way forward as I continued on my journey, one step at a time. As the years passed since Sarah's passing, I found myself at a crossroads in life. While her memory remained a guiding light, I also felt a growing sense of readiness to embrace new beginnings and opportunities that lay ahead. One bright morning, as I sat sipping my coffee on the balcony, I felt a surge of inspiration wash over me. It was time to embark on a new chapter, to honor Sarah's legacy by fully embracing life and all its possibilities. I began by revisiting old dreams and aspirations that had been put on hold. One of these dreams was to embark on a solo journey of self-discovery, exploring new cultures, landscapes, and experiences. With newfound determination, I started planning my adventure, fueled by a sense of excitement and anticipation. Setting foot in a foreign land surrounded by unfamiliar sights and sounds, I felt a renewed sense of wonder and curiosity. Each encounter, whether with locals or fellow travelers, brought new perspectives and insights, enriching my understanding of the world and my place within it. But amidst the thrill of exploration, I also found moments of quiet reflection. In the stillness of nature and the solitude of my own thoughts, I allowed myself to fully process the grief of losing Sarah and to find peace with her absence. Through this process, I discovered a newfound resilience and inner strength, knowing that her love would always be a source of comfort and guidance no matter where life took me. As I journeyed onwards, I found myself drawn to new passions and interests that ignited my soul. Whether it was immersing myself in the arts, volunteering for causes close to my heart, or simply savoring the simple pleasures of everyday life, I embraced each experience with an open heart and a spirit of gratitude. And in the midst of it all, I found love again, not as a replacement for what I had lost, but as a continuation of the journey that Sarah and I had begun together. This new love brought with it a sense of renewal and possibility, reminding me that life was full of unexpected twists and turns, and that every ending was also a new beginning. As I stood on the shores of a distant beach, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. Sarah's memory remained etched in my heart, a guiding light that had led me through the darkest of times and into a future filled with hope and possibility. And as I looked towards the horizon, ready to embrace whatever adventures lay ahead, I knew that Sarah would be with me every step of the way. Her love a constant source of inspiration and strength as I continued to write the story of my life. As I continued to navigate through life's twists and turns, I found myself drawn to the idea of passing on the wisdom and lessons I had learned along the way. Inspired by Sarah's legacy of love and compassion, I sought out opportunities to mentor and support others on their own journeys of self-discovery and healing. One avenue through which I chose to share my experiences was by volunteering at local community centers and support groups. Here, I connected with individuals who were facing their own challenges and struggles, offering a listening ear, words of encouragement, and practical guidance gleaned from my own life experiences. Through these interactions, I realized the profound impact that a compassionate presence and a willingness to share one's story could have on others. By opening up about my own journey of loss, grief, and eventual healing, I was able to offer hope and reassurance to those who were walking a similar path. In addition to my volunteer work, I also began to explore opportunities for public speaking and writing, using these platforms to amplify the messages of love, resilience, and self-discovery that had been instrumental in my own journey. Whether through heartfelt speeches or poignant essays, I sought to inspire others to embrace life's challenges with courage and grace, knowing that they were never alone in their struggles. But perhaps the most meaningful aspect of my work was the opportunity to mentor and support young couples as they navigated the complexities of love and relationships. Drawing on the lessons I had learned from my own experiences, I offered guidance on communication, conflict resolution, and the importance of nurturing a strong foundation of trust and mutual respect. In doing so, I hoped to impart to them the wisdom that had been passed down to me, ensuring that the legacy of love that Sarah and I had built together would continue to ripple outwards, touching the lives of countless others in need of guidance and support. As I reflected on the impact of my efforts, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment and purpose. Through my work, I had been able to honor Sarah's memory in a tangible and meaningful way, ensuring that her legacy of love would continue to live on in the hearts and minds of those I had touched. And as I looked towards the future, I knew that there would always be more lives to touch, more hearts to heal, and more wisdom to share. For as long as I lived, I would continue to carry forward the lessons of love and resilience that Sarah had taught me, knowing that her spirit would always be by my side, guiding me along the way.